What's going on, guys? Today I'm going to do something a little bit different. Um, there's a specific topic it is that I want to talk about that came to mind recently that has really captured my attention as far as creativity goes, and it's something it is that I've learned that I think may be of use to to other people, and that is that collective beliefs about ourselves and about others is what really blocks our ability to be creative. And what I mean by that is that right now we live in this world, specifically right now, in August of 2024, we live in this world of beliefs and ideas more now than ever. Um, the human mind is constantly exposed to ideas and opinions and beliefs from other people, whether that's on the internet or whether that's through the news, whether that's through a political campaign, or whether that's through um, the the forecasting of the job market based on financial reports, all of these different things. And we've really been trained to not trust our creativity and not trust our intuition. And I think this is a big issue whenever you're trying to be creative. And a lot of the stuff it is that I have on my channel, whether I'm interviewing other artists or whether I'm doing tutorials and that sort of thing, it's all centered around art. I actually think that art is the most important thing, and I think it's the only truth it is that we really need in our lives. You know, when we think of truth, a lot of the times, because of the society we live in, we think that we need to look outside of ourselves for some sort of truth. You know, this is something that's very relatable to being an artist, because as an artist, you grow up and you love to draw, you love to paint, maybe you like to make video games or whatever it is that you like to do. However, pretty quickly you run into other people and their opinions and their judgments, and they begin to put these ideas onto you and start to tell you, well, you know, you'll never make a living as an artist. Or if you're trying to get into games right now, people will say, well, the market's saturated. You know, you can most games, for example, never make any money. You know, most comics that you make, they're never going to make any amount of money. And so we have this very strong belief or disbelief in our own abilities. And what I think is so important about art is that it brings us in contact with the true nature of reality. In a lot of ways, art is like a fiction that tells the truth. And if you're an artist and if you've been creating art for any period of time, you will have likely come up across one of these judgments or one of these barriers that was put onto you by other people. And the only way it is that you can really get past that is to come to a clear understanding that that there is really no set objective reality that we live in. You know, somebody can turn around and point at some statistic on video games or say that, you know, 90% of visual artists never make any money with their art. And you can take that and you can use that to inform your decision. But what I've learned just from my own process of being an artist and doing it full time for a few years now and having to deal with the ups and downs of dealing with this path of doing something creative, what I've learned is that the heart already knows how to get to the destination. If there is a desire in your heart to make something, then the heart already knows the way to get there. And the only issue is that the mind, with all of its ideas, its theories, its statistics, and its analysis and its opinions, gets in the way. That's the only thing that really stands in your way. There is a ability that we have to actually live life without constantly struggling and fighting against the world. And being an artist helps you connect to that. And it's interesting to me that when you make a piece of art, you come in direct contact with this, right? You come into contact with it on every level. So, for example, you sit down to do a painting, or you sit down to do a drawing, or something along those lines, and you start to draw on it, and it's not coming out the way it is that you want it to, and your mind might come up with a story, and it'll start to tell you, well, see, you can't do this. You're not any good. You're not talented. Look at all these people on Instagram or on YouTube. All these people are super talented. You're never going to make it. Look how bad this is. With an AI generator, you could generate something 5 times better than this in no time at all. So what's the point? And the answer to that every artist has to realize whenever they're creating that work of art is that they have to let go of their expectations. They have to let go of all of that, and they have to completely surrender to the creative process of creating what it is that they're creating. Otherwise, they won't do it. So I remember having this realization very early on when I was younger, and I really felt I was like in a fork in the road. I had two ways. I could either go the corporate route, or I could try to do something with my art. And it was a huge sigh of relief for me to come to the understanding that this is something it is that I have to deal with every single day. Every day, you will look at the canvas, and the mind will begin to tell you a story about how you're not good enough for this or for that. But ultimately, you have to ignore it. You have to put it aside and understand that the mind is basically just a recording device, and it's just giving you the information it is that you've already gathered from other people and their opinions and judgments, or the world and their opinions and judgments. And when you surrender to what it is that you really want to do, we achieve what some people would say is the flow state, right? This is the opposite of when the mind is in control and is trying to tell us a story. When we get into this flow state, every artist knows what it feels like to be in that state, because all of the decisions that you need to make, whether it's which color to pick, where to draw this line, where to draw that line, they all seem to happen on their own without really any kind of forethought. It feels like it's more something that is coming through you, as if it already exists outside of you in some other higher dimension, and it's just being expressed through you. And that that is pretty much your saving grace. And what's interesting to me is that we do not realize that we can live our entire lives that way. That we can think about our quote unquote art career, or our path in whatever it is that we're doing, in that exact same way. That when you really actually surrender to your heart's path, and you decide that you're going to close the door to the opinions and judgments of other people, and you're just going to follow your heart, then the path becomes very clear. It becomes very obvious. And when you're on that path, what I've noticed is that whatever it is that you need, you will have it. And if you don't have it, at that time, that means you don't need it, you know? So another example of that is, an artist may sit down and think, well, I can't get started on this piece, this painting. I have an idea for a painting. I can't do this painting because all I have are pens and pencils in front of me. I don't have any paint. If you actually surrender to what it is that your heart wants, you will realize that what it is that you need, you already have it. It's already right in front of you. It's just our preconceptions about what it is that we think we need that keep us from moving forward. And, it's interesting to me that if you go and you look through mythological stories, which I think I'm going to do some video breakdowns on the symbolism and the stories of mythology and whatnot, and kind of explain them from this point of view. But a lot of the stories, say like in the Bible, even though people don't like to hear about the Bible, um, but in all Greek mythology, Buddhism, these different things, they all talk about this internal battle that humanity has between the good and the evil, right? George R. R. Martin says that the only story worth talking about, the only story worth writing is the story about the battle of good and evil in the human heart. And uh, I think that's definitely true. That's the stories it is that we connect with and that matter to us, that stick around. And if we look at these old ancient traditions, we can see that a lot of them, when we look at, say, the devil in the Bible, when we look at an angel, we can almost look at those as the devil being the mind and the angel being the heart. The mind always wants to doubt, and it loves to argue. It loves to fight. That's the big that's the big attraction for the mind is the fight, the arguing, the conceptualizing and intellectualizing and analyzing everything. Whereas the angel's path is way more subtle and it requires you to let go. It requires you to understand that it doesn't matter how much information that the mind gets, the mind will never be able to accurately predict what's around the next corner. You know, if you're somebody who's very much entranced by the mind, all you got to do is go back and look at predictions of things from 5 or 10 years ago about how the world would be today, and you'll see that most of them are wrong. I remember, I remember a couple years ago, there were several big name financial advisors that were saying that Bitcoin was going to hit 200,000 per Bitcoin by 2022, but that didn't happen, did it? Right? So, and that was somebody who was very intellectual, who was very much in their analytical mind, and they were trying to cast some sort of belief onto other people for them to follow. And for whatever reason, it didn't come of that. So the mind will continue to go back over this information and recontextualize it. But the truth of the matter is that the heart has access to the whole information field. And what I mean by that is that the universe itself is infinite. And if the universe itself is infinite, then there is a version of you that has exactly what it is that you want. And the heart knows how to get to that because that's the reason why you're here. That's the reason why it is that you're living your life. You're living your life not to live by somebody else's rules or somebody else's beliefs, but to express what is inside of you. And this is a truth that we have to touch on daily and expose our mind to daily because today we are just constantly assaulted by the opinions of others. And so this is something that I think is is worth keeping close to heart. So that's all I wanted to say in this video. This is probably going to be a series of videos where I talk about creativity like this. And if this resonated with you, let me know in the comments. If you want to check out my work or you want to support my channel, I've got links to Patreon and my website and stuff down below. And thank you for taking the time to listen to me. And I hope you have a good day.